Welcome back to the channel. Today, I wanted to do a little follow-up on the last video I did on disagreement because I have a couple things to build off of and some more examples that came to light with me since I recorded that video. So the first thing I wanted to talk about, because that video was mainly about why I think disagreement can be so beneficial to people, is I didn't do a good job at distinguishing between productive disagreement and unproductive disagreement. And that is really important. And I wanted to really flesh out that idea instead of just vaguely talking about it like I did. And I have more evidence and more examples to show why those two things really matter and why it's important to distinguish those two things. An example, a historical example that I like to use regarding productive and unproductive disagreement. How could you know if it's unproductive or productive? And I think one of the best examples is the theory of evolution. When this was first being presented, some schools, some institutions automatically dismissed the theory as something that went against their current religious viewpoint or their worldview, right? Instead of productive disagreement, which some institutions did do this at the time. There isn't enough evidence. We need more time to, flesh out this theory instead of just sticking with it right now. So right there's two different types of disagreement. One of them is that it's attacking my worldview, so I'm going to dismiss it automatically. That is unproductive, I think, pretty obviously. And then there's productive, where it's more, we need more evidence. We need to flesh this out more. We're not totally dismissing it, but we're not going to commit to something that we don't feel comfortable knowing the full truth of yet. And the important difference is if everybody had that unproductive viewpoint, then maybe it would have taken, 100 more years for the idea to be more accepted. But the fact that there was that disagreement where it was more productive, the theory did get more fleshed out, more evidence did come in, and now it's a widely accepted theory in the world of science. So it's very important to distinguish those two, and it's one thing I wanted to bring up. And a current example that I've seen on this channel already is on my Terra video, okay? And I'm not putting out their names. I mean, you could find them really easily because I have, 8 comments on this channel total. I'm not making fun of this guy or anything. I'm legitimately want to use this as an example to what unproductive and productive disagreement looks like. And this is important for this channel because I want this to be a productive disagreement environment which I know could be kind of a lot to ask for in YouTube comments, but I have hope and I have faith that we could do it with the power of my heart. Anyways, so this is what I wanted to show, talking about an unproductive disagreement that I got in one of my comments, okay? This person said, speaking about tariffs and competition, I think you have a fundamental misunderstanding about what constitutes competition. Most of our country of origin law requirements for federal acquisitions for the Department of War acquisitions, formerly Department of Defense, are mostly seen as welfare for war dogs and for grifting buttsuckers. Okay, he goes on, right, touches on the competition a little bit, I guess. But then if you see quickly, he says, first of all, the entire federal government was funded through tariffs. That was never true, but that's not the point of this argument. It's the way that he's bringing up these ideas that aren't, first of all, half of these aren't even true. So it's hard for me to even give credit to that, but that's not even the main reason, okay? It's how he or she switches the conversation into a bigger scope. And this is what I really want to get into this video, was the scope problem, okay? And this is a problem in unproductive disagreement where you can see this problem where I just talked about competition. That was really the main point of that video, and I was pretty focused and narrow on that perspective, and that's what I responded with. But you see how quickly the scope widens, though, to talking about, I mean, you could read this if you want to pause and read this, but he names a lot of things, but he doesn't explain why these systems are important or whatever. But anyways, by the end, he says corporations want slaves, AI, robots, and subscriptions. They always have it, and they always will. Rent seekers are generally used as parasites. Like, to me, this talk at the end that's completely off topic. That has nothing to do with what I was talking about. I was talking about a very specific issue with very specific reasons and systems why I think that issue has some concerns. And to me, this seems like someone wanting to find an outlet to talk about this whole span of like this has nothing to do with what I was talking about. And you could say, yes, it is true that tariffs have a part to do with the things he's touching on here, but that's not what I'm talking about. And when you're trying to talk about these issues, when you widen the scope like that, it becomes very hard to distinguish the noise, because now we're talking about corporations and their moral behaviors and how they set up AI and like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like that is way far off topic. And again, I'm not trying to make fun of this guy. I just want to use this because this is something that I see often where it seems to just be a lot of just random things that aren't necessarily directly connected to each other. And people try to make it more into their whole ideology instead of just talking about one specific issue. Okay. And that's what I was trying to use the theory of evolution to go back to, is that one idea, since it does challenge some of those moral, religious, and idealistic views that people have instilled into them, when they get challenged, it could feel like an attack on their entire ideology, even when it's not. Now, I want to show a productive comment that I got on this same video and what the difference is, because I don't want to just show this and be like, I'm not taking any criticism, because there was still a little bit of truth in this, I suppose. And I still did research the things he said. It just, it broadened the scope way too much, where it's like, this isn't even addressing a problem anymore. This isn't even talking about anything specific. It seems to me like it's this person needed an outlet to talk about, or wanted to talk about these bigger things that, whether are true or not, have nothing to do with the specific competition of the tariff. Okay. And I could widen the scope. I've done this. I'm not above it in any way. We all do, just in varying levels of, how much we do it. I think humans are very bad at being able to judge their own objectivity, so I'm not really going to speak on it. I think I take steps to try and prevent that as much as possible and try to be pretty focused on these videos, but I'm sure I still make the same mistakes. Okay. This is an example of a productive comment right here. Okay. Puts a timestamp. That's great too. I would amend the emphasis on American-made cars. If our cars were generally terrible due to historical consequences of post-World War II reconstruction of Japan, the United States barred them from holding a military with the promise we would defend them. And with that, they were able to dump their entire military budget into their infrastructure and culture. During that time, the companies that built cars emerged and have built every dominating car brand since. He continues on about this. So I really like this comment because, first of all, it's a lot more respectful, okay? This is way more focused, and this is on topic with what I was talking about. You see how he's just talking about specifically the competition. He's saying how things happened, why they happened. You know what I mean? There's a difference in just the way that these thoughts are being structured that makes this way more productive than the last comment, okay? See, this one it's still disagreeing with part of my video, which I love. I want that to be something that happens. But when that disagreement isn't productive, then it's not worth anything. There's no benefit to me seeing it. But something like this does benefit me, because I researched the historical contexts of post-World War II reconstruction of Japan, and that helped better understand and expand my idea on tariff, because I knew that my current thoughts on it weren't as expanded as they could be. And that's why I love a comment like this, because while I still think there are holes in this, because there were holes in my argument, this still is expanding the argument and expanding points in a way that is beneficial, and not only that, but respectful. So I really do like this type of comment. So I didn't want to show just the bad. I want to show the two differences, really. To back a lot of this up, if you are wondering, I did do a lot of research on how our brains think about disagreement. And there have been studies done. It was 85% of people think that they are less biased than the average person. Okay. See that the the math's not adding up there. Okay. If you just think about it for a little bit, the numbers aren't adding. Okay. They're not adding together. Humans are very bad at judging their own biases. And it's hard for us to accept that, because why would you not want to think that you're objectively good at judging how you're able to dissect problems, right? So I think it's important just to recognize that on a statistical level. That's just, as humans, we are just more biased than we think. I'm not going to say everybody because that's never true, but for a very vast majority. And so this is what kind of goes back into the disagreement part and what it's directly benefiting. What is it benefiting? Okay. It's a great way to self-monitor progress, improvement, expanding thoughts, getting that external friction, which is partly disagreement, is one of the best ways to learn topics. And not using it, to me, feels like you're missing a big piece of the puzzle and trying to actually understand a lot of topics. Because trying to just push through mentally and going, no, I'm open minded, I could do this. Our brains aren't entirely accurate when reconstructing information. We know this. Our brains are very bad at objectively judging things. Taking just those two simple facts into account, not even leaving out all the external factors we deal with now with social media and things like that, it's very, very easy to what I call drift away. And what I mean by that is you're letting your own ideologies and your own self-beliefs just support themselves over and over and over again and never getting that external friction needed. And this is, I'm not going to, okay, this is part of the scope problem here because I'm going to try and tie this into a bigger issue when maybe it's not. But I think I'm not going to overstate this. This could be a part of the reason why America can feel so divisive at times. Okay, I'm not going to say that's the main reason because I don't want to overstate this, and I just got done talking about the scope problem. But I think this could be a legitimate claim to why it can feel so divisive with people's perspectives on things at times, is because their self-beliefs are getting so reinforced constantly over time. This is what goes back into echo chambers, why I think they could be so dangerous. It's good to have a mix of people that maybe kind of think like you and then have a mix of people that just don't think like you, right? It's really good to get that friction. And it could seem stressful at first and it could feel uncomfortable at first. But if it feels uncomfortable, then that probably means that you're actually trying to consider the other person's expected perspective because it's hard. That's why people don't do it, you know? It's difficult to do. And I'm still need to work on it a lot, and I hope I do. But I just I want you guys to not feel hopeless in that sense in terms of things that people can change, man. And I also don't want to sound like I've solved thinking in any type of way, but I do think that these are legitimate points that will help people's understanding of things be a lot better and to understand other perspectives on a deeper level. All right, guys. Thank you for watching. If you didn't watch my last video on disagreement, it kind of introduces a lot of these things. I just wanted to go more in depth into some historical examples and to some more current world examples because I think they could really put into light and shed onto light what I was exactly talking about with why disagreement can be beneficial and why it can be basically useless. Anyways, have a great day, guys. See ya.